Yeah, so this video is a just arrived in Malaysia video. This was based off a webinar that we did previously. Due to the success, we felt like it needed re-recording and adding to YouTube so people can find this when and as they need to, as people are arriving in Malaysia on a day-to-day basis. The webinar was between me, who I work at Melbourne Capital Group and relocating to Malaysia, and Jake. So we'll get straight into the next one and introduce ourselves. So, as I said, my name is Joshua. I'm a UK expat based here in Malaysia. I've been here a couple of years now. I work for Melbourne Capital Group as a private wealth specialist. What I also am is the founder of Relocating to Malaysia, which is a hassle-free way to ask questions about moving to Malaysia. And that can be anything from finding property, finding the right schools, finding anything at all, anything that just eases the stress of expats moving over here. That's my role. Now, I'm also the owner of the Expats Club in Malaysia, which is a community that I've built here that is events and a community that people can join to meet new people. We also raise a little bit for charity, but also make new connections and build up your own network whilst you're here.
Okay. Hi guys, thank you very much for watching this, which I hope will be an informative webinar for you. My name is Jake. I am from the UK. I've been in Malaysia for just over 10 years now. I am a private wealth manager for Melbourne Capital Group, who are an independent financial services company providing bespoke wealth management solutions. Our services are very far from one size fits all, as we understand that everybody has their unique requirements and circumstances, and we have a wide range of services where we can cater to the specific needs of an individual. Goal-based investments, so we can help and advise on investments depending on what the goal may be, whether it's longer-term retirement planning and building up building up capital for the future, or capital protection to help fight against inflation or to produce an income. We can produce or utilize a range of options to assist with client goals, from fully flexible investment platforms to annuities. International protection, so we can advise on protection policies such as health insurance, life insurance, and critical illness protection. Cross-border structuring, we can help to structure wealth no matter how big or small to be efficient from many different angles such as tax, legacy, currency, and also cost. And UK property investments, so for those that want to diversify, we can offer end-to-end service for UK property investment options. Now, this is just a very brief overview of some of the things that I help my clients with. But what is right for one person may not be right for another. So it's important to kind of sit down and discuss individual circumstances.
Okay, so these three we never included in the actual webinar because these are three that people that have moved here tend to already have. But just by rule, employment or retirement visa, this is the first thing that people essentially try to go. It's always easier to find the visa before you actually move here. Well, obviously that can alter slightly. But when you're looking for a property to live in, I always use the rule of 20 minutes, which is literally put your place of employment in the middle of a map, draw a circle around and do 20 minutes if you're driving, or try and find the nearest train line if you're going, because the traffic here is horrendous. And it's the same with international schools as well. Finding the right international school. The traffic in Malaysia is very well known for in peak traffic hours being tedious, to say at best. So you don't want to be stuck in long commutes taking the kids to school or employment. So find out where you're living and make sure that your property is within 20 minutes of your employment or international school, or make sure that you're on the right line. If anyone needs help with any of these three things, please feel free to reach out. Because I can connect you with anybody that needs help on, if you're looking for the right place to live, an international school, or if you are looking at help on which visa is the best one for you, please feel free to reach out and I'll connect you with a professional. And the rest of the webinar now is what was live when we spoke previously, and everything that you need to know about moving to Malaysia.
Okay, so we're moving over to visas and tax. Now, one thing I will say about this whole webinar is we're not experts in certain areas. We can help touch on certain areas, and it can help from our own experience. But if somebody is massively into needing help in the visas or in tax or in legal help or anything like that, write down any questions you've got at the end, and what we can do is we can put you in touch with a professional who's an extension of us. So just to make sure that's clear. So first of all, I was looking at long-term visa status. Obviously, we've covered the retirement, we've covered the employment pass visas, but one thing I mainly get asked by expats is in regards to the dependency visa, so the spouse visa. So whether you can work, whether you can't work, and how you can restart that. So if there's anybody here that's on a dependency visa, if your dependency visa is based on a Malaysian resident, you tend to find that you have an able to work passport on, well, visa stamp, which indicates that if you find a job or find employment, you don't have to start again. You can work on that same visa. On contrary to that, if your dependency or spouse visa is based on an expat, you're unable to work. So what that means is, if you are looking for work, and many of you will be looking to try and find work while you're here, when you do find employment, you have to restart the whole visa process, cancel this one and restart that whole process. And anybody that's currently in the process of waiting for their visa, this doesn't have a set timeline. If you've sent your application forms off, this can be dependent on the holidays in Malaysia. It can be dependent on the time of year or anything. It can range from 2 months to 4 months. I believe mine took 5 months all in all. Moving on to point 2 of tax. When you're looking at a lot of people here in employment pass will have noticed that when they get their tax structure is not what they heard on their contract. You're probably getting charged a 30% flat tax rate. This is for the first 182 days of employment. And the reason this is it's because you are not a tax paying rate, well, you're not a tax resident until you've been here 6 months. So after that 6 months, well, the first full month after that 6 months, you'll go up to your new tax bracket, whether that's 10%, 15%, 20%, and that'll go. As long as, one thing I will specify is in that 182-day rule, because a lot of you are new, try not to leave for longer than 14 days in that 182 days, as it does end up, they will check. And if it's longer, they sort of counteract it. There are special circumstances where they won't, but the majority of the time, they'll just add it on. So when it gets to January 1st, after you've left your 182 days, January 1st is the new tax year for Malaysia. So when it hits January 1st, what you can do is you can file a tax return to the Inland Revenue. And then what you'll get, usually from my experience, usually around the April-May period, if everything's done right, is you get the amount of money back in a lump sum. So this amount of money is the difference between your tax bracket and the 30%. So if you're on 10% tax and you have 20% between 30%, you'll get 20% of that 6 months. You'll get all that back in a lump sum. So you can claim the difference back. Okay. Moving on to other taxes.
Yeah. So other taxes that, need to consider, things like capital gains tax and tax on foreign source income. So as it stands today, Malaysia does not tax these. However, with that being said, that may well change in the future. So at the moment, for someone that has an investment portfolio whilst living in Malaysia, generally they won't be obliged to pay tax on their gains that they're making. Now, this would very much depend on where your investments are held, because quite often, if you're holding investments in your home country, you may well still be subject to tax on your gains back in that country, which clearly isn't very efficient. So there are ways, depending on your nationality and your individual circumstances, to avoid paying capital gains taxes unnecessarily. But it'd be very much on a case-by-case basis. But it is just important to note that we're not tax advisors, but we do have a number of partners that we can refer clients to in order to address their specific tax affairs.
Okay, so moving on to the next, we're looking at Malaysian healthcare. If anybody has experience with Malaysian healthcare, you'll understand that it's a world-class leader in healthcare. Especially when it comes to medical tourism, you get a lot of people from other countries that are moving over here just because, especially in Southeast Asia, if you compare the affordability to the quality of care that you receive, it's just outstanding. So there's two types of care. Obviously, you've got your government hospitals, you've got your private hospitals. If anybody's got health insurance, you want to be making sure you go into your private hospitals. And what you will also know that when you go to these hospitals is a lot of the doctors and nurses and, well, the professionals that are trained there tend to have studied in places such as the UK, Australia, US. So you won't have any issues as far as English speaking. One of the main reasons I wanted to touch on healthcare is if you're anything, so I'm in the UK. If I was in the UK and there was a medical emergency and I needed to go to the hospital, my first reaction would be to call 999. If you're in the US, it'd be 911, and most people in most countries have an emergency line that they use. There is a 999 option in Malaysia, but what will happen is you will be then taken to a government hospital. Whereas what you want to do is ideally you want to find out the nearest private hospital that's close to your area, okay, and you want to contact them directly. So each individual hospital has an emergency line, which you can call an ambulance. You can prepare them to let them know you're coming in. You can find out which department to go to and be seen immediately. So the ones that are on the screen, Prince Court, Glen Eagles, Pantai and Sunway, these are, in my opinion, probably the top 4 hospitals, and especially in expat related areas as well. But if you're in an area like Putrajaya or somewhere else where these aren't in, if you're in emergency, you don't want to be going somewhere far away. You want to find out the closest to you. So Google private hospitals near me and find the best one for you. And if you need help with that, by all means, reach out after and I'll try and find the best one for you.
So from a health insurance perspective, as I'm sure most of you are aware, health insurance is put in place to cover the cost of medical bills should the unexpected happen, right? From a financial planning perspective, it helps you protect your finances so any large bills don't come out of your savings. So many people will have an insurance policy with their company, which is usually fine. However, it's always a good idea just to check the coverage, as you may well find that it's more of a token coverage and it can be pretty basic. So it's usually okay for small stuff domestically, but if there's anything serious and very expensive, then you may well be left with a huge gap in the bill compared to what the insurance would actually cover. In addition to potentially basic cover, generally speaking, health insurance provided by an employer is likely to be domestic only. So basically that means if you need treatment, then you can only use it in hospitals in Malaysia, which, as Josh alluded to, are pretty good. However, if there was a specialist that you needed to see that couldn't be found in Malaysia, then the insurance policy generally wouldn't cover you to go overseas for that specific treatment to see that specialist. Also, with company insurance, you're generally only covered when you're working for that company. So if you move from that company to another company, then the new company may not provide health insurance. Or if you're in between jobs or you take a sabbatical, then you might find yourself uninsured for a period of time, which obviously isn't very good. So the point I'm kind of trying to get across is domestic cover may not always be fully suitable for you and your family. So generally, I look to explore international health insurance for most of my clients. Now, this is because it provides protection essentially no matter where life takes you. So it follows you across the globe. Compare that to a domestic plan. With domestic plan, if you move to another country, and you may have to take out a new policy in that new country, and there could be issues there with regards to if you've developed a medical condition or you've suffered a serious illness, then the new insurer might exclude that, or they may not even insure you at all, or if they do, it might be at a hugely increased cost. But with international health insurance, they're essentially globally portable. So you can take them with you when you move on, which avoids having breaks in your coverage, and also removes the risk of being refused coverage based on pre-existing conditions. And with international health cover, generally as well, the annual claimable limit is a lot higher than a domestic policy too. It's not for everyone. So it's always a good idea just to review your existing coverage to ensure that it's right for you and it's suitable for your needs. Because international health coverage generally will be more expensive than a domestic policy. But there are ways to bring down those costs, such as, for example, adding in a high level of excess and then only calling upon that insurance for the things that are extremely costly, which would severely affect your finances if you didn't have it in place. Okay.
Yeah, just to further on from the health insurance, I brought this point up earlier. With health insurance, the older you are, the more expensive it gets. The older you are, you also get limits on the underwriting process and going through and what can be accepted or not. So if you're working and you're in, say, your 40s and 50s, and you're thinking, you know what, after I finish work, chances are I'm going to retire in Malaysia. When you stop working, and say if you stop at 60, 65, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more expensive to insure you than it would at 40, 50. So if you've got the retirement in your vision in the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, what you want to do now is you want a health insurance now that you can have before you've got any pre-existing conditions, before that cost has risen, that's going to last you till the end. Because getting an underwriting now rather than waiting 20 years is a lot easier and a lot cheaper, and it means you're going to have everything included as well. Okay, so one thing that we are going to add, if anybody's interested in this, you will receive an email after. If you want to follow, depending on how much interest we get, what we've done previously, we've done CPR training in our course, a first aid course. If there's anyone that's moved into a job, or if there's any parents here or teachers or even retirees that would like to have that under the belt, we're willing to pay for that for completely free and put that on. And we'd like to, obviously, depending on when people are available and how many people are interested, we'll put something in. So if you can reply after saying that that's something you want to be part of, then we can set something up where everybody can come and get free CPR training with us as well. Okay,
it's really good for those that have young kids. I went to one as soon as I had my first child, and you learn a lot. It just gives you a bit of peace of mind knowing that if something was to happen, you know what to do. Okay. Obviously, as Josh said earlier, call 999 as well, but at least you can.
Or don't call the hospital.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. Do what Josh said.
You just ruined slide 2. Okay, so understanding local law as an expat in Malaysia. Now, like I said to you before, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a lawyer or that any side of that. We do have lawyers that we can recommend to people that we've worked with privately, not on a professional level, but ones that cover ourselves. But it is important to understand the local law in your local law in Malaysia, as it will differ from your own country. Obviously, depending on you're a different side of the world, you've got a different percentage of certain religions and things such as that. So there's a different way of looking at life. A lot of this is common sense, but one of the main things that I get asked, especially in the legal side, is it's usually disputes between tenants and landlords. One thing I will say is, you're not on your own when it comes to stuff like this. You do have legal representation. You are legally backed up. So, for example, one of the main things that you tend to find issues with expats and landlords is not receiving deposits back. Now, the only way you can do this is to protect yourself from the very beginning, which you guys are at the beginning of that journey. And what I mean by is, if it gets to the end of your tenancy and you've got a landlord that's you're trying to get your deposit back, but your landlord's claiming this was broken, that was broken, and this is removed and this is removed. It's sort of your word against theirs, and they're sort of relying on the fact that you're an expat and you're going to leave the country anyway. So the best thing that you can do is at the beginning of your tenancy is go around with the landlord or the real estate agent and take photos of every single thing, every blemish on the wall, every crack on a table, every glass smash, every stain on a window, or anywhere needs repainting. So when it comes to the end, and it does come to a legal disagreement between you and your landlord, you can turn around and categorically say, no, I showed you this at the beginning, you signed off on this. And if it does have to go further where you have to get an intermediary, then you can point that in there and it'll work in your favor, rather than being your word against the landlords, in which 9 times out of 10, if it's just your word, it's going to go to the landlords. But basically on that, you're not on your own. You do have backing if you need help on the legal side of things. Yeah.
Right. So just kind of with regards to family protection. Now, most of the people on this webinar today are, very much likely living in a different country to where they're from.
So for those that have family or people that have, people that are dependent on them, it brings some additional needs that should be considered in order to protect your loved ones. So the first one is establishing a will. Most likely, most people will have a will in their home country already. If you don't, I advise you to get one set up. But what many people don't realise is that generally you need to have a will in every jurisdiction or every country that you have assets. For example, in Malaysia, if you have a EPF account, which is the Employer Provident Fund, the pension fund, as a foreigner, you're actually not able to nominate a beneficiary on that account. So if something was to happen to you, for your loved ones to get access to that can be very, very difficult. But by putting a will in place in Malaysia, that would stipulate who would be entitled to the proceeds of that account in the event of death. Okay. Kind of separate to this, if you are in Malaysia with children who are obviously minors, then it's very important to have a will in place to protect them. Without being too morbid, if both parents were to pass away, then the children would very much likely go into government care, as the next of kin do not automatically have custody rights on those children. And no one knows how long that would be for. It's not going to be very, very nice. So drawing up a will to name guardians would just allow the Malaysian authorities to be aware of your intentions when it comes to, or with regards to, who should be the legal guardian and take care of your children. Okay. Onto the kind of legacy planning perspective. This is really much for investment accounts and things like that. But if you hold investment accounts in or out of Malaysia, and you were to pass away, then having a will, providing it's in the correct jurisdiction, would allow intended beneficiaries to seek a grant of probate to get access to these. Now, that process, though, however, may not be very quick, may not be very efficient, as it has to go through court. You have to pay lawyer fees, etc., etc. And often this can be very, very stressful for a member of the family, for those trying to get access to what they're very much entitled to. And this can be especially complicated and stressful if there are investment accounts, for example, in multiple jurisdictions. Now, to avoid these complications, there are some ways where you can essentially ensure that assets are transferred to intended beneficiaries very, very efficiently. Now, this can be done via some very cost-effective trust structures that essentially only come into effect on death of the account holder. And what that essentially does is removes the need for potentially lengthy and costly probate procedures. Moving on to kind of life insurance. This is kind of a very similar concept to the health insurance that I talked about a moment ago, with regards to many people having it with their company. So more often than not, though, the cover is very low. It's in a local currency and only covers you whilst you're with that company and in that country. So people take out life insurance for many different reasons. One of the main ones is to cover liabilities that they may leave behind, such as a mortgage. Another reason is to provide capital for loved ones that you leave behind. When I had my first child 3 years ago, the first thing I did was to take out a relatively sizable life insurance policy. This was essentially because my wife wasn't working; she still isn't. So if something was to happen to me, then essentially the insurance payout would allow them to continue on their way of life. It will pay off the mortgage, and I also factored in enough money to basically fund my kids' education fees all the way through from school to university. So generally, I advise my clients to consider taking out a personal international life insurance policy. As similar to health insurance scenario, it would cover you across the globe and avoid you having periods of being uninsured. And again, similar to health insurance, generally speaking, the younger you are, the healthier you are, the cheaper it is to set up a term insurance policy. So on this kind of slide here, we have a couple of matrices to show an example cost of international life insurance for £500,000 for different terms: 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, and 30 years. In the example on the left, you've got John Smith, who's 30 years old. If he took out if you look at the highlighted and underlined part, If he took out a 25-year policy for £500,000, it would cost him essentially around about £52 a month, which isn't a lot of money, but it gives you a lot of peace of mind knowing that if something happens to you, or to John even, then his family will receive £500,000. Okay. However, if you wait a little bit, and if you go to the middle box, John is now age 40. If he then takes out a life insurance policy for the exact same term, so 25 years, £500,000, it now costs him actually over double, so £118 it will cost him. Okay, and then to the far right box, if John's been a bit overindulgent in the last 10 years, and by the time he gets to 40, he's a little bit overweight and he's got high BMI, then the cost could be at least 50% higher, which is up to £177, and it could be more if he has other underlying conditions. So at the end of the day, when it comes to kind of life insurance, it's a bit like car insurance. You don't want to be using it, because with car insurance, if you use it, you've had an accident. With life insurance, if you use it, you basically died. But it's there to protect you and your family just in case it is needed. And as I just displayed in that matrix, the younger you are and the healthier you are, the cheaper it is to lock in a price for the life insurance policy for a set term. Okay.
Perfect. So these are some essential things you need to navigate from Malaysia, and I've done this from, especially for the Relocating to Malaysia website. These are commonly asked questions over the next couple of slides. So first of all, moving over to Malaysian driver's licenses. Malaysian driver's license, if you've got your own normal driver's license, you'd usually be able to tend to use that for 90 days. You can rent a car out using that. And often if you're working with buying a car, they'll help you use that at first. But after 90 days, you need to move to a Malaysian driver's license. To do this, you'd have to take your documents to the road transport department. And what I mean by documents, there is a JPJ checklist if anybody needs it, and this changes a lot of the time, but there's a JPJ checklist I can send out, but this will include your passport. This will include your original driver's license, a passport photo, a completed application form, and the exact driver's license with issue of authority, which is basically is usually a QR code that you can scan to see internationally to see if the license that you've got is really you. And depending on which country you're from as well, you may be asked to resit the driver's test or the theory test. That does change from country to country. But it's a relatively easy process to go through if you have the right documents. So moving over to opening a bank account. Most people here who are working will tend to have had a bank account. If you're waiting for a visa, you won't understand how to do one yet. The easiest way to open a bank account is to find out from payroll who your company pays you with, and take your work contract, take your a proof letter from your company saying that you work there and that you'd like to open a bank account in this particular branch, as well as taking your identification as well. And they may ask you for a few things. This does depend to range on who's actually serving you, and it changes from time to time. And for some reason, mine, I'm with Maybank, but the majority of people I work with are RHB. It does changes. I wasn't allowed an RHB and they wasn't allowed a Maybank. So this changes. So just go into a couple and you'll find the one. But what you also want to do is try and find one that has a branch that's within walking distance of you, just in case anything goes wrong. And also on that, if you're a spouse and you're looking on a spouse visa and you're looking to open a bank account, same as before, you get a letter, a proof of letter from your other half, from their work, to prove that you're the spouse of someone that's working at their company, a copy of their work contract, and your identification. And they may ask for a few other things as well. But it's the same thing. Just because you're a spouse doesn't mean you can't have a local bank account. Looking at finding your nearest MRT/LRT station. So the reason I put this is, if anybody's been in London or America or Europe and used the metro or the subway or the underground, everyone seems to use it over there. But when they come to MRT, you tend to find that a lot of expats swerve against it. What I'll tell you is, it's one of the most high quality, high tech services there is. It's absolutely brilliant, and it can change, especially if you're working and you're in high traffic areas, and especially if you're using Grab, things like Grab, for example, where your journey there might be 20 ringgit and to get back it might be 57, or to get back it might be 75, or you might be waiting 10 minutes. The train, so I'm in Banksia South at the moment, and I know that it takes me 5 stops to get to KLCC, and it costs me 3 ringgit there and 3 ringgit back to get there. And it's definitely worth having a look to try and find where your nearest station is, because a lot of the time in traffic times, it's easier to get the train than it is to wait for a grab, as weird as that seems. Carrying a copy of your passport. The reason I put this is in any country, when you move to another country, it's important to have a copy of your passport on you. If you're anything like me, I hate having my physical copy on me. I always feel like I'm going to lose it, or I'm going to bend it, or I'm going to rip it, or I'm going to leave it somewhere. You need to have this, especially in some cases if you're going out late at night, because you'll have seen roadblocks where they check visas and passports, and they do this randomly. Sometimes they won't check, sometimes they will. And others where sometimes, especially on holidays, you've got Halloween coming up. This is something you'll notice in certain bars and clubs, where what they'll do is they'll just go in and check everybody's passports and visas. They'll take the whole club and do it all at once. So rather than carrying your actual passport, you've got a chance of you can keep it on your phone. But if you're out and your phone dies, you're struggling. So what I've always done, and this works, is take a photocopy and print it off and put a copy of your photo page and your visa page in your wallet or your purse, and keep that on you at all times. And if you ever get asked if you scan that, they can do it. You've got no worries. And then you're also not worrying about losing your passport, especially if it comes to going out on Halloween and you've got to take your passport with you. And then you're also worried about going home for Christmas because you don't want to take your passport out with you in case you lose it because you've got flights. Take a piece of paper with a copy of it on, make sure that's there. And finding a SIM card. SIM cards are relatively easy to go to. If you've just moved here, the easiest way to get a SIM card, I'm not going to go into all of them because I'm not a phone salesman, but the easiest way to go into them, take your passport, go to any 7-Eleven and ask for a Cellcom. Ask for a Cellcom, they'll show you how to use it there. It's 40 ringgit a month. You get unlimited internet, unlimited calls, and you're away from there. And then that's probably the easiest way to do it. There's other ways you can do, and some people have contracts the longer they're here, but that's the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. Moving on to the next one. So essential apps to download in Malaysia. A lot of these apps, a lot of you will already have already. But when you're looking at, so you're looking at taxi and e-hailing, this is also for food as well. Grab essential app. But you don't just have to limit yourself to Grab. That's the one that everybody knows. You also have InDrive, and you have AirAsia Move. These are other ones. Grab, you can also get food. These are essentially the Ubers of this country, and they all compete. So sometimes if you get high on Grab, you can check InDrive or AirAsia Move, and it can be a lot cheaper for you at certain times. Moving over to multi-currency. This works well, especially if you don't have a bank account yet in Malaysia. But it also works well if you're planning on traveling around Southeast Asia, or if you ever plan on returning to your home country, because what you can do is you can put it in Malaysian ringgit in Wise, and then you can turn it into GBP and transfer that back. Or you can, if you're, say, going on Thailand for a holiday, you can move it into Thai baht, then move it back. And it's easy. It's like having a bank card for every single country you go to. But what Jake's probably going to interrupt me to say here is make sure that you understand which country you're setting it up. It's a lot better for you if you set it up in your own country and send the card over than set it up as a Malaysian one, because you don't have as many limits on there, and it just works out a lot better in your favor.
If you have Wise here in Malaysia and it's registered here, you're limited to holding no more than 20,000 ringgit every day, basically. And you can't transfer more than 20,000 ringgit either. So I have mine registered in the UK, and I can do at least £250,000 if I want. So you're severely limited by holding a Wise account here in Malaysia.
Yeah. Moving on to the next one, we've got payment systems. There's a lot from here because you've also got Grab, which is in the first one. You've got Grab Pay, you've got Touch and Go, you've got obviously you've got your QRs from your bank codes. One thing you'll notice about Malaysia, and it's something that there's no consensus of payment here. You can go to one area and they'll only accept Touch and Go. One area they'll only accept cash. One area they'll only accept Grab Pay or QR or bank card or things like that. There's no one there. So making sure you got Touch and Go and just having a couple of ringgit there. Also just having a couple of ringgit, especially for your uncles and your food and your street food and things like that, having that on the side. But just making sure you understand that sometimes when you go in, there's 5 forms of payments. So just make sure if it's even just a little thing that you've got 50 ringgit in each, it means that you're not panicking when you get there. If they turn around and say pay in this, you've got that. Moving over to the next one, Shopee, Lazada. I'm engaged, so I have 4 Shopee orders at my door daily. And I mean that this is just stuff that's just ordered and ordered. One thing I'll advise you on, these are great for ordering online, and they are the Amazon of Asia, and they are ridiculously cheap. One thing I'll advise you to do, and this is my only advice, I don't want to get sued by Shopee, if it doesn't say a verified retail seller, you're playing 50-50. It could come as that, or it could come as something smaller or something different or there. Unless it says verified seller, if it says verified seller, that means Shopee is confirming that what they are selling you is that product. And if it's not, you'll get your money back for it. Whereas if you get it from the other sellers, it can be random, it can be this, it can be a picture that they've tried reinventing and so forth.
It's especially important if you're using it to buy the likes of baby milk, which is I do. So
yeah,
you don't want to get 50-50 that.
Yeah, or if you're like me ordering underwear and realizing that it's different, and it's, yeah, I'm not going to go into that on here, but yeah, that was, I had an issue with that. The last one on here, I'm going to go into Google Translate. So Google Translate, most people living here, Malaysia is an English speaking country. When you start venturing out, especially into the outskirts, and really start exploring, you'll find that there's a lot where they don't speak English. And you will struggle. A lot of the time you can get around. The thing that I use the Google Translate app for that helps me massively is there's a camera option on it, where what you can do is you can put a camera on there, and then when you go to, say if you go to the outskirts, or you go to somewhere like Ipoh or Port Dickson or these places where they're maybe not speaking English, and they've got a menu that's specifically written in Chinese or Bahasa, what you can do is you can hold that camera up and it translates it to English directly on there. You can do the same with street signs. You can do the same with instructions, anything. And it just works where you can have it in real time in English or your own language there, so you can understand that, which will help you navigate, and especially making the decision of going somewhere and thinking it's great chicken and realizing you've ordered chicken feet because you never didn't understand how it was written. There's a lot of people in there that have probably made that mistake. So something like that will help you prevent from that. And moving over to sort of where the Expats Club comes in, and there's obviously a lot of other options, but it's building your new network. So when you leave your country, and especially when you come to a new country and you're on a different time zone to your network and your community back home, whether they're asleep when you're asleep or when you're awake and they're asleep, and it's you constantly clashing there. So when people first move away, they're either on their own a lot, they create work-based partnerships and you create friends with your colleagues, or if you've moved over with a spouse, you end up in this little bubble where you don't actually experience Malaysia. You live and work and live in the apartment and sort of explore in your own regards. The importance of building up your network and having sort of a community here that you can be involved in and grow. That's why the Expats Club was invented. They help each other. They do this. And what it also means is I get people coming to me about how much it's helped them move. So, for example, we've got the KL Curry Club. KL Curry Club, which is an event that I run once a month. We usually get around 50 to 80 people there. We've raised over 7,000 ringgit in donations for charities over the past couple of months. You've got Expat Malaysia, which is all your big Facebook groups. They also have events. I think they have 2 a month, Audrey has, that you get 70 to 80. A lot of people here will have been there, but it's a great way to meet new people. And you've also, just going off the cuff, you've got golf events. So this weekend we've got a golf event on the Friday. On the golf, if anybody's into golf, you realize how cliquey golf societies are. There's a big golfing community here, so you can have 70 to 80 people on there at any one time. I've been to some of the golf events in the past. They're great days out, great prizes, and probably a lot cheaper than you're paying back in the western side of the world. Moving on to the societies. The societies are a good way to interlink with people from your home country. Of here, working out resources for how they've done it. For example, the MBS, the Malaysian British Society, very, very active group. Very active group. They run a lot of events, and what you also meet is you meet a lot of people in similar positions to yourself. You've got the St. George's, the English. You've got the Manza. You've got the Latin Women's Society. You've got Bellux Cham, you've got the Australian, you've got the Scottish, you've got every society. So when you come here, learning the society that you sort of find in your society just automatically just puts you into a group of people that will look out to you, help you build your network and your resources as well. So I'd always advise people to go to societies, join the clubs. So I know that I'm in my 30s. I've never played it, and one of my favorite nights every week is I played football when I was 16. Now I join a futsal club. We play every Thursday, and it's one of my favorites. Hiking, part of the Expats Club. We play that. We go hiking every couple of weeks. Great days out, and you meet people. A lot of the time when you've got networking events, they tend to be around bars. Which is something which is great, but sometimes you just don't want to do that on your weekends. You don't want it. So joining the clubs, it introduces you not only to new people, but new like-minded people. For example, the rugby community here is huge. Going back onto the golf community as well, the futsal, the hiking. We even have a badminton club that's great. But what you can also look is you can look into the family side of things, so family fun events and things like this. And using the online community. So we have the online community. I'll send you out the links. We've got the Expats Club WhatsApp community where you can join. We've currently got 500 members. We've also got the Expats Club Instagram and TikTok where we post events and things like that, which is just try and be as educational as possible and obviously have a bit of fun with it as well. And then obviously what we've also got is we've got the Expats Malaysia. Expats Malaysia, again, the Facebook groups, you've probably, if you're on here, you've probably seen the Facebook groups, asking questions in there. There's a great community in there of people that are willing to help. So building up your network, making sure you've got people to look after, this is sort of a way to move forward. So yeah, that's where we come in. And if you want anything on that, you can message me about that in regards to the Expats Club, and we can move forward from there. All right. So I can see Q&A.
Right, so if anyone's got any questions, I think the best thing to do, because someone's already been putting questions in the chat, is rather than us allowing everyone to have their microphones on, just to keep it simple, if you have questions, just put it in the chat and we'll just kind of work through them. So there's a few ready, so we'll get started on those, but we'll spend 5 minutes or so running through questions. Okay,
Somebody's also using my link that says Joshua Webley. It's not me answering those questions. So
can I answer these ones?
okay.
That one.
Okay. If someone has 2 wives, can both obtain dependent visa? Incidentally, from my fiance as well. So I'm not really going to go into that one. Don't worry, I don't have the option of going for 2. Is there a government issued card for EP holders, or do we need to carry our passports at all times? No, for employment pass holders, it's just making sure you've got your passport and a copy of your visa on you at all times. That's all they're going to check, and they can take your passport number. They can put it into the system as well. So yeah, you can take your passport out with you if you want, but in fact, is there a government issued card for EP holders? I think I've seen that somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not for EP. No, I don't think there is actually.
Yeah.
No, for PR, obviously there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So that's for permanent residents, not EP. And can dependents of an expat work on a dependency visa, or do they need to convert to an EP? Yeah, I answered this at first. So no, they can't. If you're married to an expat, or if your dependency is on an expat, you can't work on that visa. You have to completely renew. You have to cancel that visa, restart your process, and go through. The only way with a dependency pass you can work is if you're married to a Malaysian national. You don't have to restart that. Okay, 3 questions. If someone has 2 wives, I've just answered these. If someone has 2 wives, can both obtain dependence visa? That's something that I'll
exact same questions there.
Yeah, I think Rachel's copied and pasted them.
Okay.
Okay, so I have answered those right now. It requires
this one here.
Yeah.
So I tried signing up to a touch and go wallet right now. It requires MyCAD and has no passport ID option. Is there another one for expats? There's only one, and I've got it right here. There should be an option to update your passport, or to use your passport to set it up.
Yeah, I have one as well, and me and Jake, neither of us have MyCAD. So let's try and send out the one to you that we use, and that might be probably the most beneficial for you.
So that's one from Amber, yeah. So we'll send out some information to you, Amber.
Yeah. They used to be, but not anymore. It's just, I think there's a big dispute here on whether this. Okay, the app does not allow me to as well. It's only got 2 options, Malaysia or Singapore. I had this issue, and I'm going to be honest. I had this issue when I first signed up with Touch and Go. When I first got to this country, Touch and Go, setting up a Grab with my card as well. I had issues where it was literally just a trial and error until it worked. I know that Touch and Go for me didn't work for a while. However, both of them work for me now. So Mark and Amber, I'll send you out what we have after, or I'm also seeing you both. I believe both of you are coming to the events Friday, so I can talk you through it on the phone and I'll guide you personally through it.
Yeah, you definitely can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're both at the event, so I'll share with both of you. Don't worry. And apart from that, the Two Wives one, I'll get back to you privately about that. I'm not entirely sure about that. But yeah. So if anyone's got any more questions, a lot of you have me on WhatsApp, or we're going to send an email out where you can email back. Just based on this is the if anyone found this interesting, or if you want to help or support, please feel free to leave a review. And that's on both Melbourne and relocating to Malaysia. Obviously, relocating to Malaysia is just me alone. Melbourne Capital Group is me and Jake. So yeah, if you want to help there, and we will send out, I believe we're sending out a copy of this to everyone.
We'll send out an email to everyone with a copy of the recording and also a summary on what we talked about. And obviously, you can then give us a review.
Yeah. Perfect. And finally, we have on Friday, we've got the KL Curry Club Friday in Banksia South. Changed it to the food club now. We've moved away from curry, so we have a Spanish night in Buena Brasa. If anybody here is interested in joining the community, I believe so far we've had we've had about 90 people sign up, and I think 42 people have paid the donation. So it should be a really big one, and it's usually a really good group of people as well. Meet at Friday at 7 o'clock. So if anyone wants that, please send a message, or there's a QR here if you want to scan that. That takes you through to the registration page where you can go forward from there and connect. But apart from that, I believe that's all from me.
Yep, thank you ever so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, and I'll see most of you Friday.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now. Bye.